It's podcast time here on SCW. We're going to do a review of Backlash 2024 and also going to be answering who will be king and queen of the ring. Welcome to the show. I am Steve. I'm joined by the one and only Mr. NX Steve in the house. We're going to kick things off by talking about Backlash France. Of course, was the last WPLE this past Saturday. Of course, was in Lyon. First time ever we've seen a pay-per-view in France. And I'm going to say the crowd were hyped. But first question I'm going to ask NX Steve is, what were your thoughts of the crowd that we had at Backlash? They were certainly a loud bunch.
They were good and bad for me. Like, I thought they were amazing in some parts and really annoying in others. And I know everyone seems to bang on about how good they were, but they honestly ruined a couple of moments for me during the show.
Oh, fair enough. I mean, for me, I'm gonna say I enjoyed. Obviously, I love the passion. I love the energy. I love the fact that they didn't keep down for most evening. But I will say there was one or two chants that I think got a bit repetitive. So I think it was like the 2 count. 2, it's only 2, which we learned the meaning of it as well in the press conference. And Triple H was like, yeah, exactly. Supplemental. It's not as cool when you when you learn what it actually means. But at the same time, though, big thumbs up for the energy they bring in. Obviously, the fact they just interact with everything. I mean, particularly when you see Jey Uso, for example, come into the ring, that was spectacular. Watching that as well, with all the phones as well out with it as well, it was a really magical moment. Obviously, with the Bayley songs as well, singing Randy Orton's theme song at the end of the opening. It was like it was listening to I don't know, a Cody Rhodes song being sung. It was amazing. So I've got to say big props to the French crowd. I mean, they were loud. Yeah, I will agree. There was a couple of moments I was sitting there going, okay, I could do it, just calm me down for a little bit now. Do you know what I mean? But at the same time, it's got to be an amazing experience to perform in front of live.
Yeah, it's just like I said. I think for me, it mostly felt like the women's matches were a bit soured by it, like especially the finish of the triple threat, because it was like an underwhelming finish in itself. The fact that it was just a reversal of a pin, but the crowd were too busy chanting to even realize that pinfall went through. And then I was like, you've kind of ruined that moment for yourselves there because you're too busy chanting for them when Bayley does pick up the win. And then there was another one as well, was the Priest win as well. Like, they were dead silent, like very shocking. Like, not even like, it's almost like as if no one liked Damian Priest. They were just shocked he was going to retain. And it was like, it's his first title defense. Of course the guy's going to retain. It's like the most obvious choice of the night.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, maybe it was the choice of the booking, maybe the way it was done and executed. I'm not sure, but certainly it was fascinating with the story that played out there with the Judgment Day members, obviously Finn Balor and Jade McDonough. But we're going to get into all of it.
Coming out of that.
I think there's going to be, and we'll be definitely going through that and more throughout this. And of course, like I say, we will go in different sections of this video. So we'll start with Backlash. We will then go on to King and Queen of the Ring. And if we've got time after that, we will dive into the Wyatt 6. And we may just finish off with touching on the WWE Draft, as I didn't get the opportunity to give a final thought on this year's draft. So a quick shout outs to Noob and Coming House. Good to see you, Noob. Hope you're doing well. Eric is singing the Bayley song in the comments. And kicking Leo in the house as well. Hope you're doing well, Leo. Wondering our thoughts on Liv, Morgan, and Becky, which we'll touch on later in the video as well, if you don't mind, Leo, because we're going to kick straight things in then with Backlash France, obviously. And this show kicked off with an amazing street fight. I mean, it wasn't meant to be a street fight. It was supposed to be a regular tag team match. It was Randy Orton and Kevin Owens against the Bloodline, of course, Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga making his debut in WWE. The match didn't even get started. Literally, we had a pull apart going on with officials and everything going on, to the point Nick Owens had to come out and say, you want to bend the rules? You don't want to play along? Well, screw it. Let's have a street fight. Let's do it. And all of a sudden, the bell rings. We're fighting through the crowd. We're getting weapons involved. We're getting steps. Steel stairs, for example. Was it trash can lids? That's what I'm trying to think of there. Chairs. Announcers tables. All sorts of toys coming in on this one. There certainly was a lot of fun indeed there. And obviously, as the match progressed, probably the basis of this story was that Randy Orton was taken out of the match. Obviously, with that Samoan drop through the table. That led to a lot of action on Kevin Owens until Brandy can come and make the save. Obviously, from that point, we got a fantastic RKO on the announcer's table. Did he go through it? I can't fully remember. On Solo on the table. It was really, really cool. And it looked like that with the Fisherman Suplex Buster. I'm not sure if that's the exact name for it.
I thought it was.
Along that line, Kevin Owens doing it to Tama Tonga off the top rope through a set of chairs that were placed there. It looked like Kevin Owens was going to pick up the victory. And the 1 and the 2 goes. And of course, many of us in the wrestling community, I don't just count myself in this. I know this was like the hot topic out there. Everyone thought Jacob Fatu was the one who was going to come and make the save and join the bloodline, but no, a complete left field turn. Someone did make the save. Someone did help the bloodline. It happened to be Tonga Loa come out. Of course, the GOD member, Gorillas Destiny, the tag team partner, and of course also related to Tama Tonga as well, making the save here. And at that point, it was all bloodline from this point, and Kevin Owens annihilated with that Samoan spike. He sold that like a trooper, the way that was done from Solo Sikoa to get the 1, 2, 3. And obviously this bloodline then that's standing in the ring now, you know, it's Solo Sikoa and it's Haku's boys behind him. It's not actually Fatu's at this point. And obviously Paul Heyman horrified. His facials were incredible ringside, watching. Obviously just even towards the end of the match as well, like the way he sort of frighteningly has to put his finger up in the air being a part of this bloodline, and the fact as well that he's almost begging for mercy for no more pain for KO as well. For me, I was having a great time watching this opener. For me, I thought it was outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, you looked at this card going in, you kind of like, it's the most predictable card of the year. We've just had the draft. We kind of know which way most of these results go in. The only surprise is obviously the women's tag titles later on, which again was predictable. And we knew that was probably the only title that was going to change hands. So to have Aldis come out, change this to a street fight, it's a great way to get the crowd a good pop to start the show off. It let them kind of just do what they wanted to do, to have a killer opening match. And it kind of also, for me, it kind of was like, yeah, it's predictable what's going to happen now that you've changed this to a street fight. And obviously you have Tonga Loa debut instead of Jacob Fatu. And I was looking at the guy and I was like, that's not Jacob Fatu. That's definitely. And then obviously they obviously say it's Tonga Loa, and then Michael Cole like guerrilla warfare has started, and I was like, oh, that's a nice reference there you've got. And yeah, man, it's nice when they do stuff like this to surprise us, and it makes it makes the predictable unpredictable. And it was just a great way to kick off a pay-per-view. I thoroughly enjoyed this. This for me was just like absolute killer. Great way to start show.
Absolutely great swerve there. I was like, what's Camacho doing back in WWE? Where's Unico at? You know, but at the same time, like, thank goodness said that. Apparently, as well, the 10-year anniversary of him actually being in WWE as that gimmick as well is around this time period. So it's kind of fun. Yeah, it's kind of a bit mirrored there as well. But the bloodline from this point onwards, like you say, it's a nice twist, something that everyone expected one way, and WWE slid it and did the other. A bit of details come out as well that apparently Tonga Loa signed at the same time Tama Tonga did with WWE. It's just the fact it's been hidden. Everyone knew that Tama was leaving Japan.
I'm sure he was released from New Japan a lot earlier as well. Like, he's been a free agent for a lot longer than what Tama Tonga had been. And yeah, like you said, the fact they kept it under wraps was very clever booking. Like the fact that they managed to hide it for so long was great.
Genius, absolutely genius. And just, I mean, for me now, I start thinking to myself, well, what next moving forward? Like, because there has so much potential to run with this moving forward. And obviously this is a frightening group now. If you look at the way that Paul Heyman is selling it, I thought he was one of the MVPs of this match, to be brutally honest, without doing much. He's just stood there where the hard camera could just see him at all times, and just being emotionless, expressionless, fearful, just them little traits in his face when it was needed to be changed, just set the tone and the story perfectly of what he feels and fears with this group. And it translates and it makes them seem dangerous moving forward, because now obviously they've been hard to control on SmackDown anyway. We've had to make a street fight here to make this match even happen. The fact that they've now been stronger coming out the other side, and the fact that later in the show as well, they actually go face to face with Jey Uso and just walk past him, and you'd almost see Paul Heyman look at Jey Uso and just be like, it's almost like help. It is, to a degree, like he's looking for, like, get me out of here in a way, you know. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what's going to be, because at this night, at this moment, I thought that they were going to cost Jey Uso the match. They were not involved in that match, so that sort of side of things may come at a later date. But the Rampage will continue on SmackDown in the meantime with this lot.
Yeah, it's weird, because it's almost like the Bloodline has gone from being the main of focus of the entire company to I don't really want to say, but it's almost like a B story now. The fact that you've got no Rock, you've got no Roman, and it's kind of like they now have to work at getting these three guys over as the Bloodline. And it's going to be great to see how it happens. And then it's going to be great to see how, like, we possibly get the Usos back together. what side does Roman take when he comes back? What side does The Rock take when he comes back? Do you know what I mean? So there's a lot to look forward to with this storyline, and I'm glad that it's not the main focus anymore, and it can. Do you know what I mean? They can almost afford to make mistakes with this storyline now because it's not the priority of the company.
Yeah, it's a good point. Like, it's they've hit here and they've hit hard and they've hit home run as well with the way they've done this to a degree. I know that there is some footage out there that Tango does kind of miss the spot. The referee does a lot of the work himself with pulling away from that pinfall, but still, we didn't see that in real time properly. And I had a great time with how this match was done. But I look at this and say, you ask all these questions here, but then there are other questions as well. Where does Jacob Fatu land now? Because will the Fatus, apart from Sodom, actually be on Roman's side? There's no guarantee that he has to be on Solo's side. And there is another member of that family. When we're talking about Tama Tonga, we're talking about Tonga Loa. Hikuleo is going to become a free agent later this year, if I'm not mistaken. And he's 6'7" tall. He's a big dude. He's someone that's had interest from WWE in the past. In fact, last year as well, before he re-signed with New Japan. So, I mean, we could find ourselves here with we talk about war games, for example, later this year. Could have been 5-on-5 at that point, let alone 4-on-4. So I'm fascinated to see how it's all going to play out from here. But this was done perfectly well. Carnage was great. I'm looking forward to seeing if Randy and KO will look to try and get more revenge. Will there be some step up, or will there just be a new target moving forward for the Bloodline after this? They're looking to avenge stuff that's happened with previous enemies of Roman Reigns, for example. Someone like an LA Knight is someone who's had issues with Roman or issues with the Bloodline that's caused problems, and obviously that could lead to an attack further down the line. So interesting stuff. Sami Zayn could be another one, although he's on the wrong show, but hey, pay-per-views come along, like we say. Anything can happen when it comes to pay-per-view. Everyone is under the same roof. But all in all, any final thoughts, and what would be your rating for the match?
No, man. Just say, I think I texted you this when I started watching the show. I was like, I think Backlash is becoming my favorite biggest pay-per-view because we discussed it because we did obviously do a prediction show, but privately, I turned around and said that Backlash is kind of going to be more of a wrestling show, especially with how it's put out on the calendar year, how it's just before the draft. So I was really expecting this to just be a great wrestling show. And it you know what I mean? It started off well. And for me, I'm going to go with 4 stars for this match. I just think the swerve at the start to change the match type and the swerve in the different member of the Bloodline joining, I thought was great. So I went with 4 stars.
I've actually gone higher. Believe it or not, I've gone 4.5. I've gone 4.5 just purely because of the fact that, like you said, I felt like myself that this was going to be a fine tag team match, but I was just more looking forward to the finish of the match rather than the actual match play itself. Yeah. And when, like you said, we got the story play out and turned into a street fight, I thought the match was well put together, very well structured, great weapons, and like I say, just all the storytelling with everything to the finish. Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot more I can want from this an opening show. And when you put that crowd on top of it, which for me were perfect for this match. So yeah, I had a real good time. I'm not going to lie. So yeah, it doesn't get much better than this from this point here. But Noob does say here that Poem literally fearing for his life when he's around Solo. It's very true. Tonga boys, what's next? The Tonga twins from WoW show up. You never know at this point if there's any relations. Anyone could show up, I think, in this Bloodline storyline. You could find that most of the SmackDown roster could be involved in this if they're involved in the family. We've seen the Bloodline tree, didn't we, before WrestleMania? So if they're out there, they could end up involved in it. But it's going to be interesting to see how things will move going forward. But we are going to move forward in the meantime to match number 2. And of course, Bayley retaining her women's championship against Naomi and Tiffany Stratton. Of course, Naomi was taking the pinfall, as probably, I suppose, many would have expected in this one. But a great showcase match, a very well wrestled match between these 3 ladies. But I've got to say, Tiffany Stratton stands out. She definitely looks like she is going to be the star of the future. Tiffy time, it doesn't matter what time zone you're in. She's here to stay, and I've got to say, I do like the 2 table spots she did on the outside. There's the way that she put that together before those Alabama slams were done. Very well done indeed. Almost the prettiest moonsault ever. The way that was sort of attempted from the top rope, it was missed, but the way that she sort of just rolled through as well, like it was nothing. Very sort of fast paced, was incredible. She did sort of end up falling herself into a 3D from Naomi and from Bayley as well, which was a fun spot. And of course, basically a simple roll up was what was that countered roll up if you want from Bayley, got the pin for Naomi. So it was a bit of a, I suppose, a sudden finish for my liking. But all in all, I do say that I think this was the right result, the right person pinned, arguably the right person showcased, and again, hot crowd for it once again. That would be the same with every match. But all in all, I'm just satisfactory. I was happy with this.
Yeah, so same, man. I mean, I think there's one point I was really like, I was so blown away with Tiffany does she grabs both of Bayley and Naomi's legs and does a flip over pin on both of them, and I was like, wow, going for 2 pins at once. Obviously gets the kick out from both of them, but I was like, what a unique way to showcase yourself. Dude, exactly the same thoughts. This was just a showcase for Tiffany Stratton. The fact that I think she's interviewed, they did a digital exclusive interview where she says that she's only been with the company, or she's only stepped in the ring 3 years ago, and look how far she's come. And she's kind of like, she's on that meteoric rise that essentially Kevin Owens had when he joined the company. Like, he was only in NXT for about 6 months before he was called up to the main roster, and Tiffany is like very quickly following the same steps and is rising very quickly to the top, and she's already a crowd favorite. And it's like, dude, man, it's very rare that someone comes along and does this well this quickly, and do you know what I mean? They actually do the right thing and pull the trigger, because we've seen it before where some people have come in and they've wowed us, and then they come to the main roster and they do absolutely nothing with them. And yeah, the fact that they're doing the right thing with Tiffany and they're making sure that she gets these showcases. She's been on the main roster less than a couple of months. She's already been in a pay-per-view match for a title. So yeah, man, the next 12 months are going to be massive for her.
Absolutely. In fact, the only PLE she's not been on this year so far is WrestleMania. We've had 4 of them. So it just shows what a great start she's had. We were talking only 4 matches on Elimination Chamber. She was on that show. Only 5 on Backlash. She was on that show. So it's looking like that Tiffany time is going to be, well, could be every time zone at the moment. She's got some great stuff, and she will not be the last time featured in this video. We'll probably be talking about her quite heavily when it comes to those Queen of the Ring predictions.
She's going to rival Tino for Tino's time. I think it's going to be Tiffy time instead of Tino's time.
Absolutely. Shout out to Tino's time, by the way. It's his birthday today. Hope you're doing well. So, we won't let you lose your time zone just yet, but definitely Tiffany did stand out on this show. There's no doubt about it. But Bayley, for me, and Naomi have definitely got interesting pathways potentially going after this. Obviously, Naomi was very humble in the defeat, give a hug to Bayley there, sort of accepting the loss and probably move on to the back of the line. Maybe Naomi and Tiffany will carry on their thing in the meantime. But I think Bayley will go on to face Bianca Belair next. I've got a funny feeling with the way that they were on the SmackDown episode this past week. It looks like Bianca's got issues with damage control. We'll be talking about that match a little bit more in a couple of seconds time, but it did give me vibes here that Bianca still hasn't forgiven Bayley, and I just think that match just could be the match they could be doing next for the King of the Queen of the Ring pay-per-view.
I don't know. I think with the fact that they're tag team champions now, maybe it's the one they want to save. Maybe that's the goal for Mania next year. Maybe Bayley Bianca is the one. Like, who knows? Like, do you know what I mean? There's still 12 months to go. Yeah, I imagine at some point they will square off, because it still is a part of that story that hasn't been finished. So I don't know. I mean, dude, without sort of looking at how the rosters look now, like, it's kind of like, well, I guess I'm waiting for SmackDown really to see what happens and to see who should be Bayley's next challenger. But it might very well be Bianca Belair. But like I said, with them tag team titles around them waist, I don't think they're going to rush it, if I'm honest.
I've got a theory. I'll keep people hanging on, hopefully. I've got a theory. I've not quite an Austin theory, but certainly think that it will make sense, I suppose, when I say it. For this video. Eric says Tiffany in the bank with a pink briefcase. She did mention that in the interview with Chris Van Vliet, and I've got to say that would be definitely awesome to see. And Tiffany for Money in the Bank will be great. Certainly could be Queen of the Ring as well, though it could be a shout. We'll be talking more about her later in the video. But all in all, star rating for the match then between Bayley, Naomi, and Tiffany.
I went 3 3/4. I did say the finish was a bit of a lackluster for me, and again, predictable result was the only reason why I've really knocked this.
3.5 for me, and yeah, I've got to say the result, probably the predictability, probably is the thing that knocks it in. Just the finish as well. I think that could have been high as a 4 had it been different. But we move on in the meantime. Then Damian Priest, his first World Heavyweight Championship title defense was against main event Jey Uso. We've already mentioned, wow, what an entrance with Jey Uso coming to the ring there. But Damian Priest, obviously, the story of this match is that he wants to do this on his own. Arguably, you would say he can't do it on his own because Jey Uso was the one that was on top and looked like he had the match won on quite a few occasions. JD McDonough was the first one to come out and make the save. Damian Priest was not happy about that. And of course, once he was out of the mix, well, Finn Balor decided to get involved and make some help there. It eventually became kind of 3-on-1 towards the end of this match. And look, there was a case that Priest kicked out of Jey Uso's splash. Obviously, the Razor's Edge variation that Priest does to Uso was kicked out, as well as the South of Heaven. But an avalanche South of Heaven from the top rope when it was pretty much 3-on-1 is the reason that Damian Priest was able to retain the championship. However, celebrations were very much cut short at the immediate following this match because pretty much Priest was in the face of McDonough and Balor, pretty much shoving even his hand around Balor's throat, which are not something you would have expected to see a month ago. But yeah, I mean, all in all, cooler heads did prevail in the end. They all celebrated together, but doesn't look too rosy for the Judgment Day moving forward.
I'm glad that they ended this match how it ended because I was watching it and I was like, is Priest meant to be the new Roman that can't win retain the title without interference? And that story beat was very key for me because I was kind of like, this is very underwhelming for the fact that you're a brand new world champion. In your first title defense, you're already struggling and you're having to have members of your faction come out and help you retain. But the fact that they did that ending and it just showed Priest was annoyed at it. And I was kind of like, this is good because now this is already planting the seed for at some point that Priest is probably going to break away from the Judgment Day. And I have a theory that someone may replace him and that someone is a certain Scottish psychopath who might be Drew McIntyre because I think that's the reason why the title may change at Clash at the Castle because I imagine Drew's got to be facing Priest there. And I think that if they kick out Priest and replace him with Drew in the Judgment Day, it kind of makes a bit of sense. And like, there's a reason why Priest can lose that title. There's a reason why Drew can win that title. So that's my early prediction with that one. But on the side of Jey can have a decent singles match then because I was like, this is the kind of match he should have had at Mania instead of a super kick fest with Jimmy. So great showcase for him. Obviously, crowd popped hard. The Fireflies, as I'll call it, went out for his entrance. Do you know what I mean? Just made him look like a superstar, and it was a really great way to elevate him even more into the main event scene, even though he's pretty much already cemented his place there. It's just like how they're going to book him going forward, because I imagine at some point he will probably end up tagging back with Jimmy again. So it's kind of like a balancing game that they're going to have to play with Jey going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to touch on what you talked about there about Clash of the Castle, because I had a similar prediction. I felt that this is obviously the breakup will come with Judgment Day, and obviously we'll see Balor turn on Damian Priest. And obviously, I think that when you look to the next show, for example, I think Priest now the story is that he didn't have the option to get the job done on his own here. So the next show, when he does defend, he will have the opportunity to do it on his own. And obviously, if there comes a situation where, say, Clash in the Castle, for example, the tensions arise again, it could be the place of, well, we don't actually want to help you this time. We're going to cost you. And obviously, that could be where Drew could win the title in front of his fans. So that I shared a similar prediction there, but to think of the idea that Drew would take his spot, I really like that. I had not thought of that. And I think that that's a really unique heartbeat, because Drew's always been the guy of, I do it on my own. I do things just for me, and I'm not interested in the other group. And obviously Drew has history with the Judgment Day. We look at War Games last year. So there's stuff there that works with that. And it's just, I don't know. It's a unique beat that I didn't think of. And obviously I know Drew McIntyre and Finn Balor are now going to face each other in a King of the Ring qualifier or King of the Ring first round match probably tonight on Raw. But at the same point, I think I like it a lot. And the more I think about it, the more I want to see it happen.
Yeah, it's almost going to be like a double turn at that point, because you're going to have Priest become the face in the scenario, and Drew will go full heel at this point, because he's kind of tweener at the minute. But I think that obviously if Priest is portrayed more and more as a face in the coming months before we get to Clash, and we get like Drew's just ultimately gets to the point where it's like, you know what, I'm sick of having the odds stacked against me. I want the odds in my favor, and he just replaces Priest as part of the Judgment Day. I think he's a great shout, but The only thing I worry about is just Judgment Day entirely. Obviously, with Rhea not being there, and then I don't know if this is meant to be a story beat. You've probably seen it. The whole Liv Morgan coming out of the locker room, followed by Dominic shortly after. Whether that's an actual thing or just unfortunately where they were doing the interview, they just happened to walk out the same room, and it was just a bad bit of timing. Who knows? More than likely, it probably is meant to be a story beat. So it's going to be fun to see where that faction goes in general over the next couple of months.
Absolutely, it's definitely got to be a story beat. They've done that too conveniently for 2 weeks in a row. And we mentioned about Damian breaking out to be the babyface. Look, Rhea's going to come back as a babyface because she was getting that momentum anyway. So the fact is now people
want to replace Rhea.
It looks like it. It looks like I think Liv is going to become stepmommy while mummy is away. And it could be a question of like who's on top now. It could be very fun for a storyline. And then just because Dominic Mysterio is not expected to be out as long as expected. I think it's 6 to 8 weeks. So by the time then Rhea will be back. So we could even get Rhea Ripley versus Dominic Mysterio in a squash match, which I'm not going to lie, be freaking amazing to watch.
Yes,
definitely give us that.
She puts him across his knee and spanks him.
Exactly. No, yeah, absolutely. You could even have Priest and Rhea versus the other Judgment Day members. So yeah, sign me up. I think all of that sounds pretty cool and awesome. But for Jey Uso, obviously, main event Jey, he's got the first shot here, but not going to be the singles champion in the meantime. Obviously, we know and expect him to be involved in this Bloodline Civil War. It's just when, not if. So I guess he'll carry on to do his stuff on Raw in the meantime. But do you think there is an outside chance that he could do this match one more time? The fact that Priest wants to do it on his own.
Yeah, there's no reason why they can't. If anything, the fact that he won via interference probably means that he will get a rematch, and it will probably be something like a steel cage match. Do you know what I mean? Something where it's harder for people to get involved in, and they'll probably end up doing it on a Raw. Sorry, because he's Raw champion. Yeah, they could do it on a Raw. It'll be. I can't imagine they'll push this to Saudi Arabia. So yeah, I reckon it'll be a rematch on TV.
Yeah, I imagine so as well. I could see it being TV at this point, especially when you look at the poster. Neither looks to be advertised for that show. But if you enjoyed the video so far, make sure to hit the like button, share it with the friend as well. Help get this video out there in the world of YouTube. But quickly, I don't think I asked your star rating for this match.
I went with 3.5. I just it wasn't obviously the best match, but I enjoyed it, and I think the story beat towards the end was the most important thing I took away from it.
Absolutely. For me, I've gone simply just a 3. I think bang on 3 for me. I enjoyed it, but I do feel that this I don't know if it's the weakest match of the show, but for me, it was more invested in the story than necessarily the match itself, I suppose, at this point. We've got brand new women's tag team champions, though. We've got Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill defeating the Kabuki Warriors, Asuka and Kairi Sane. All in all, I thought this was a fun tag team match, but there was a place that I felt this match got a bit lost, and that's where I mainly want to focus on.
Absolutely.
Because Kairi Sane looked like she was in the perfect position. In fact, everyone was in their position of where they needed to be. And the referee kind of just went, Kairi, you're not legal. You need to get out of the ring. And all of a sudden, they kind of was a bit confused, didn't know quite what to do. And then all of a sudden, they just continued the match. And then a tag was
still watched it.
Yeah, I know they did. They tagged it, and then the ref went, "Yeah, it's a normal tag." And it was like they then had to work for about 3 minutes, weirdly, to get back in the placements that they were. And politely, I think throughout that 3 minutes, you could see every performer was kind of struggling to get back in the position, because because the thing is as well, when it's a tag team match, obviously a singles match, if you're going out of placement, it's hard enough, but you can get into the spot quicker. But when it's 4 people, right, this person needs to be on the floor, this person needs to be in the corner coming at the same time. You can't all just like, okay, now we're just going to run in and do it anyway, because it doesn't connect the same way. So it really was like a dance routine broken. So I really felt sorry for the performers, because I feel like a little bit the referee could have just left it.
Yeah, for me, the referee absolutely spoils this, because that's what I mean. Kairi, you're not the legal person, and they were obviously trying to plan a spot right there that they couldn't do because of it. And then Asuka goes to the apron, and Kairi tags her in, and it's like that still doesn't make sense, because Asuka should be in the ring tagging Kairi in, and then it just all completely breaks down. And it's like the ending really saves this match for me, because like it completely went to hell and buggery for me right at this point. And I was like, you have I don't know if it's the referee's fault. I don't know, whatever. Like it was obviously meant to be a kick out. So why the ref didn't just count and just do like a kick out to like a near fall? I just don't understand it. It's almost like the ref botched this match for them. And yeah, they seem to be lost and confused at that point. Because even I think at one point, Jade and Bianca stand up and they're looking at each other like, what's the next point? What's the next spot supposed to be? Do you know what I mean? They just look really, really lost. And yeah, just proper ruined it for me.
It's a shame because I thought it was a decent match before that point. And the thing is that credit to the performers though, because they, like you said, they got it back together. And when they did get back together, that finish was actually really, really good. I mean, it was incredible. Let's not, you know, I know Jay Cargill has done this before with Sky Blue and AEW, but obviously just to say that the quickness, the timing of, you know, throwing and catching and then getting yourself, you're getting Kairi into Jade and hitting the spot so perfectly. I mean, to try and explain it, I think is very difficult to do. I'd just recommend go and watch Backlash and just see the finishing part of this match.
The 2 points I got was Jade has Kairi, Bianca hits a code breaker on Kairi, then uses her feet to push Kairi back up so Jade can hit a German suplex, which was just fantastic. And then the electric chair pushing Kairi over to grab her into to do the Jaded. It was just insane finish to the match. Like it, honestly, my match rating like lost a star and then gained a star because of that final spot. Like it was unreal. Like you have to kind of watch the match again for both the bad and the good, because the bad is really bad, but the good is fantastic. That ending is just unreal.
Absolutely. And of course, classic always. So every time we see Bianca and Asuka sharing the squared circles together as well, Asuka will unfortunately eat a KOD, unfortunately for herself in these recent matches. But Bianca then being the one eventually to get the pinfall victory. And we have new women's tag team champions. But yeah, I agree with you all in all. This match, just that finish itself, more than makes up for what we saw just before it. And I feel sorry for the performers, really, because I actually I point the direction. We don't know who it is, but for me, I just felt that could have been ignored. That small detail I didn't really notice, and I think some people will notice. But I mean, if it's going to be noticed, for example, on commentary, let them bring it up. Do you know what I mean? Like it's quite clear that everyone's in position to go and do to the next. Just push through, because these things, it's time as well. Timing on the show, you might have to cut something somewhere else as well. So you know, it's all these things when it's put together. But what would be star rating for this match?
I went a bit harsh with this one. I went 2.5. Like I thought it was, like I said, the middle bit really ruined it, but the ending was fantastic. And it's kind of like, if you want to edit, if WWE just want to edit out that middle 3 minutes, it would probably be a lot higher for me. But I went 2.5 for it.
I went 2.5 as well. I think this exact same as you, really. And I'm expecting now Bianca to dominate this division for the next 9 months or so. I know a lot of people said when I've spoke to them have suggested SummerSlam should be the match, but I think this is going all the way to WrestleMania next year. I think Bianca and Jade will dominate this division for 9 months, and I think they'll lose the titles around the Rumble, Elimination Chamber season, and I think they can start then building their match to WrestleMania, whoever decides to turn heel in the meantime. But what do you think of this? Do you reckon it's a Mania match or a SummerSlam match?
For me, it's a Mania match. It has to be. It's like, you've got Bianca Belair, who has come through the system essentially and has become WWE's star, and you have this outsider that's later trade at another company and has been signed as a generational talent. And if you want them to clash, it has to be done on the biggest stage, and it has to be WrestleMania for me. But dude, the aesthetic of these two alone, they just look like a vintage 90s tag team to me. Like, you know how they come out, the ring gear is like aesthetically pleasing. Like they look like a tag team, which is so good to see, because half the time you just get people tagging and they don't look nothing like each other. Like Chelsea Green and Piper Niven, for example, they both have their individual styles, but you don't see, as a tag team, they don't look like a tag team. So I'm the same as you. I'm expecting these guys to absolutely dominate this division for the next 6, 7, 8 months. And if you was going to ask me, Bianca has to turn heel. The only reason why I don't think it is because she is such a big star with the kids. And obviously they are very cautious about turning their biggest stars heel. But I think Bianca deserves a heel run. She was great in NXT as a heel, as I've always said. And yeah, to see that, just dropped something on the floor. yeah, I think Bianca as the heel in this situation would be a lot better than Jade.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same with it, just purely because of the fact that I think I've seen Jade as the heel, and I feel that she could do the job fine as a heel. I've got no problem with that.
Yeah.
But I think it would just be refreshing for the characters. And we're not seeing a heel Bianca on the main roster of WWE. We're seeing it in NXT, and I think that her character could really blossom and could do with that heel turn. I think Jade is going to be pushed as it feels like she's going to be the next big star. And I think when they do the match at WrestleMania, I mean, obviously Bianca's streak would be on the line. If I had to predict now, I reckon Jade's going to be the one to break it. I think that's the end goal for this, is that they put these two in the big marquee match for WrestleMania, whether it's like a main event match or one of the main event matches of whichever night they do it on. And I think Jade is going to be the one to end Bianca's streak. And that's obviously all depending that they can build Jade Cargill to be the star that they are intending on building, because from the second she's come into that company, they have pushed and said, we've got a mega star on our hands. She's been presented as such. And obviously they've been very careful in the steps of how they brought her in. Obviously the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, now here. And I've got to say that I think it's going to continue moving forward. Obviously, tag team wrestling looks to be the way that they're going to, I suppose, bed her in a little bit into WWE, but they've got a great story they can build here. And like I say, we'll come back onto this topic a little bit later on in the video, because I've got a bit more to say on it. But for the Kabuki Warriors, in the meantime, Damage Control on Monday Night Raw. Could you see them perhaps maybe being a thorn in Becky Lynch's side potentially, or Liv Morgan's side potentially? Because obviously Kabuki Warriors and obviously Damage Control in general have been dominating on SmackDown for the last year or so. Now they're on Raw. Obviously they're going to want to go for the top title over there.
I mean, if you have there's a story there that the four of them could be a thorn in Becky's side. You could literally have Becky do title defenses against every single member of that faction. It's a good way to drag something out until maybe they've got something stronger for Becky going forward. I mean, I don't know, man. Like this is why I was a bit underwhelmed with Becky winning that title, and it's kind of like, I don't know. This one for me, that women's title on Raw is probably the one I have no confidence in at the minute, because I've got no story for it. Once they give me a story and some rationale to it, I'll probably look forward to it a bit more. But yeah, I mean, why not have Becky run through all four members? Sure, she's beating all four members, but I don't know, maybe do the numbers game on Becky. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how they do it. I mean, yeah, I don't know, man. That's just for me. That Raw Women's title just seems to be, sorry, what is it? It's the Women's World Championship, is just a bit, like I said, underwhelmed at the minute, just because Becky's the champion. No discredit to Becky. I just think Liv or someone else should have won it. Do you know what I mean? Just give someone else a chance with that title.
I think actually thinking about, though, because like we said, we've got Queen of the Ring coming up here, and obviously just to go into the comments quickly, a noob actually suggesting that it's true, Io and Asuka are in this tournament. We'll be going through the brackets a bit later on, so perhaps that's going to be the focus of Damage Control probably for the next few weeks. Becky might lose the title by that point to Liv Morgan. So to answer Leo's question at the start of the video, who should win between Liv and Becky? Obviously Liv should win. That's probably the answer to that one. Becky might be going against Damage Control without a championship.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people are screaming for Liv to get that title, but going back to what we were saying earlier with the Judgment Day, do you know what I mean? It's going to be interesting to see how they do it, if they cross paths, if they do whatever, if JD ends up helping Liv win that title, who knows? So yeah, it's going to be fun to see what happens.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what's going to go down. I would actually say that I think that maybe War Games for the women this year could be Damage Control against Becky and whoever she's got lined up. But we'll see as we go later on further down the line. But we've got one more match to talk about Backlash, and then we can move on to other topics. Of course, it was Cody Rhodes. Obviously, nightmares do come true. Obviously, he finished the story, but could he actually finish a new story that had been started going against fellow Georgia boy AJ Styles, which I cannot do that impression whatsoever, so I'm not going to do that again. Yeah, I thought this was a really good match. I thought, this was like classic AJ Styles having just an awesome wrestling match against Cody, targeting Cody's sort of arm and shoulder area, which had been rumored to be injured after the match with Carmelo Hayes. It was referenced as well that the internet had been talking about it as well. And there was there was a great table spot as well that was featured in this match as well. But obviously Cody ultimately did get the job done with the crossroads in the end there. But all in all, this match went on for about 25 minutes, and just for me it was a masterclass. A great wrestling match was what this one was all about for me.
Yeah, it's like, even just let's go from the start. Cody looks like $1 million. Like his jacket that had his logo in the middle of the outline of the title just looked fantastic. Crowd obviously singing, popping hard for him, then singing his entrance music while Samantha was trying to do the entrances. The 4K cameras, love them being back in the ring because it just adds something to it as well. AJ wearing a random homage to the Undertaker with his black and purple gear, I thought was cool in a way. Like I was going to say, I don't know what that was meant to be, but I liked it. It looked cool and like it looked very 90s. And Cole mentions Bullet Club, how they were both leaders of the Bullet Club, although I don't ever think actually Cody ever was leader, because I'm sure it was meant to be Kenny when he was part of the Bullet Club. Cody doing the Stardust mockery as well to AJ, I thought was fantastic, because obviously AJ had made a reference to that, so that was great. The crowd doing a too sweet whoop whoop chant, I thought was fantastic as well. Crowd for me, great in some places, terrible in the other, so I really appreciated that. That brainbuster that AJ does on the apron to Cody was vicious. It was a great spot. And Cody doing the Kimura lock as well. I was like, oh my God, we got a future Roman Reigns on our hand here with this, because it's like, it's not something Cody does, do you know what I mean? But then ironically today I saw a video of him saying that if I wrestle someone 5 times, I'm allowed to steal their stuff. And I was sitting there trying to work out how many times has he wrestled Roman? Has he got to that point where he can steal his stuff yet? But I was like, is Cody going heel on us, like subtly, like with a Kimura lock? But otherwise, just a great match, man. Just enjoyed it from start to end. And again, going back to what I said earlier, this is what I was expecting this show just to be a great wrestling piece.
Absolutely. Well, he's wrestled Roman twice, but I think the Kimura lock would be from Brock, which I think he did the trilogy, didn't he, with Brock?
I said it, so there's 5 people, so it's 5 matches with someone that does that move. Yeah, I suppose we can allow that one.
We'll sneak it through there. And the story with AJ's gear, then, what I believe anyway. So AJ Styles is the only person ever to wrestle Cody Rhodes and Dusty Rhodes for World Championships. Back in 2003, AJ Styles was the NWA World Champion, defending that championship against Dusty Rhodes. And the day that he defended against Dusty Rhodes, he was wearing purple. So, and I think there may be some black in the trunks as well. So I think that's the nod and the story towards the choice of colors to the gear. So, I thought that was pretty awesome, pretty cool stuff indeed there. And like you say, just a brilliant wrestling match all around. I mean, I'm not even going to waste time getting around to a star rating for this one. For me, I went full on 4 stars. I thought this was all killer, no filler.
Yeah, I went 3 3/4. It's just, it was, again, it's the predictability of it that was obviously my markdown for it, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. This was just a great show from start to end, aside from a couple of minutes with a referee in the middle of one match. But yeah, I went 3 3/4.
Yeah, I have to agree with that as well there. And I mean, for me, AJ still can go. Anyone that thinks the idea that AJ could be washed up, I mean, he's still one of the best wrestlers in the world and on the roster as well. You don't want none when it comes to AJ. And Cody, been just to see what his next direction will be when it comes to
AJ's new music is garbage, by the way. His old one is so much better.
I actually don't mind. I don't like the Death Rebel songs. I do not like hardly any of them. But this one, I don't mind. I prefer the original one. I prefer the old one. But I don't hate his new one. I think his new one's all right.
It's not the worst Death Rebel song anyway. But yeah, the rest of them are all generic. But yeah, I much prefer his old one. But new character, new look, new aesthetic. It's fine. I'm sure I'll get used to it.
I mean, to be fair, at least it's not DIY's music. That is god awful.
I don't mind DIYs. Like, it's just the fact that it's like the fact that every single song has to have who they are said at the start of it, like New Catch Republic, because the rest of the music sounds generic. It's kind of like, it's just the way, unfortunately, like we're in that period of bad music, unfortunately. Bringing back CFO $.
Get the deal rolling, WWE. That was the glory days. Those were awesome. But all in all, that's our kind of review of Backlash there. But we're going to go through some things that we're going to do moving forward now when we're going to review some pay-per-view shows. Did it for WrestleMania. NXT said we should keep them moving forward for future shows. So let's do it. What was your OMG moment of the night?
I'm going to go with the Tangaloa debut, because I think that was the biggest shock. I think everyone was expecting Jacob Fatu, and it's kind of very easy to it's great to be surprised when it's not who you think it's going to be. Same with like I said at Mania, Taker doing the spot that was supposed to be for Austin. I just thought that was great.
Yeah, I completely agree with that one. I think Tangaloa is definitely the one there because it's the big talking point coming out of this show. That's the thing that everyone goes back to look at with Backlash outside of the fans, of course, how loud they were. But match of the night, obviously, we give our star ratings already, so I think they're probably doing surprises of what we think for our ratings.
Tag team. The first tag team, the KO and Orton versus Bloodline. I thought that was the best match of the night.
Yeah, match of the night for me as well. Gave it a 4.5 star. Entrance of the night. I don't think this will be too difficult.
Randy Orton. Crowd loved it. It's Randy or Jay, and I went with Randy just because it's very rare we ever see a crowd sing Randy Orton's theme song, so I went for that one.
Respectful. To be fair, it was pretty darn awesome, but for me, I can't get past Jey Uso's one. I mean, I felt like I was in a Schweier or space in Ibiza again. You know what I mean? Like I felt like that was a proper nightclub feel and a proper we're going to be partying till 4 a.m. kind of vibe. I was down for that all day long. An MVP of the night.
Kairi Sane. Because Kairi Sane, that finish of that women's tag team match, if you don't have Kairi Sane in that spot to take that code breaker into the German suplex and to be able to reverse that move into the Jaded, that match, that finish does not look as amazing as what it is. So I went with Kairi Sane.
So my MVP of the night is not going to be a performer, but I'm going to give an honorary shout to a performer. Yeah, the ref. No, Paul Heyman's going to get my honorary mention because I think that his subtleness and detail in that Bloodline match just adds extra layers. It's like it's the gift that keeps on giving, and it keeps the believable factor of the Bloodline. The way he is selling it, his fear and his frightfulness just adds to this group, and it just continues to make them what they are and how dominant they've got the potential to be because they can now take over WWE. But my MVP of the night, look, it has to be shared. Whether you loved it or hated it, and there were points and nights like even I found them a bit over the top with some bits, but it's got to be the crowd. The crowd has to be the MVP of the night because this, without this being in France, if this had been, politely insert local town in the States, which is, I love obviously the States crowds and some of them are super, super hot, but let's pick on someone. Unfortunately, if you're from there, apologies. If this is in Corpus Christi, this is a, all right show, the most predictable one. Me and you would have been probably finished talking about this in a much quicker time than what we've done, but we've talking about how hype and stars and all that we put onto the matches. So for me, this here just shows that the B pay-per-views just really work. Obviously, last year Puerto Rico was insane. This year France has been insane.
Money in the Bank last year was great.
Yeah, so I look forward to seeing what they do with Backlash next year because it's going to clearly be an international one again. Someone like a Mexico, Italy was mentioned in the press conference as well. So I mean, there was some great potential markets out there WWE could explore. Japan, I'd be interested to see what they won't do. Who knows? Maybe it might come to the UK, but I think that we seem to have our slot in the sum up right now.
All I'm gonna say is they're gonna beat the crowd at Cardiff for Clash at the Castle because that was the best crowd ever. Like I was there, it was amazing.
Well, decent to be fair. And what would be your final rating then of Backlash 2024? Score out of 10.
I am going to go with an 8 out of 10. I thought it was a fantastic show, but unfortunately, very predictable. That was my only problem. And again, it's not their fault. It's just the way the card is and the time of the year with the draft and all that kind of stuff. But I went with an 8 out of 10. I would quite happily go back and watch this again. I thought it was a great show.
Absolutely. I actually look forward to doing this as a retro in 10 years from now. I think 8 out of 10 as well. I just want to think how this show would have felt if this had been unpredictable. I think this would have been a 10 out of 10 show. Because match qualities was good. If you didn't know who the finishes of the winners were going to be, I think it would have been even higher. So all in all, Backlash 2024, it's an absolute solid one.
Yeah, it's always hard following up after WrestleMania because you get most of your title changes and your champions you get them at WrestleMania. So it's not very often that we have a title change or something shocking happening at a pay-per-view after. But the fact that in the last 5 years, I've enjoyed three of the backlashes after WrestleMania have just been fantastic. And it's kind of this is what I expect now when it comes to Backlash. It's just a great wrestling show, and I'm glad that they've been able to almost deliver a different product to what we would normally get. Because I imagine if this was the Vince show, this would have probably been a load of trash, really. It probably wouldn't have even been in France. It probably would have been, like you said, in somewhere like Corpus Christi, or do you know what I mean? No offense to them, but do you know what I mean? The fact that they've used they've used the fact that they can go abroad and go to Europe to book these kind of shows. It's just it makes it almost makes it as if now that every other crowd in every other city now has to step up, because there are these European countries, these South American countries, they're setting a bar for how a crowd should be. And yes, we don't get the shows that often, so do you know what I mean? These crowds make the most of it. And I imagine Clash in Scotland, especially if Drew's on that card, is going to be insane as well. So yeah, man, states have got to pull their fingers out right the backside.
Absolutely. I've got to say, quickly, I'm actually looking forward to Bash in Berlin. I think I've heard the German crowd is meant to be insane as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that's
on that card.
Absolutely, absolutely, indeed. There. A quick shout out to Lubico, by the way. Thank you for sharing some of your choices here. Obviously, Tongaloa also being the surprise of the night there. Randy Orton had a great entrance there. Was also sharing your feeling of that and giving also the show an 8 out of 10. Eric Douglas, we're going to take this comment here. We'll just quickly talk about it quickly. Feels bad for Minnesota right now. WrestleMania 41 is going to be in Vegas. Obviously, gave my quick, very flustered reaction. I'm not gonna lie, it's not my best show I've ever done, but I just was purely excited with the idea of it being in Vegas. I think that it's going to be a really good, market for WWE, and I think it's going to break records. And I think Vegas just feels big time. And I think that this next year WrestleMania is going to feel big time, with it being the Netflix era as well for of course us, for our sort of communities and stuff. And obviously the idea it could get Rock versus Roman and stuff like that. I think it just feels right for me. Although I do feel bad for Minnesota, won't lie. They're at the cusp of having it, but maybe next year, who knows? Or the year after, I should say, maybe 42.
Yeah, I mean, like we were discussing earlier on this week, if the rumor is that they're going to start pushing Mania back to maybe May, just because then it opens up a lot more places to be able to host it. Like, I'll be honest with you, a WrestleMania in London in April, yeah, that's not a good idea, because it's more than likely going to pour down with rain. Like, England in April is the definition of April showers. So yeah, it'd just be a wet, like, which I mean, it'd end up being a swimming competition, I think, if the WrestleMania was to be here. So yeah, the fact that like next year it goes back to the middle of April, the following year maybe the start of May. I know it's going to be weird not having WrestleMania in April, but like you and me said as well, like, how would we rearrange the calendar? The fact that I suggested that if you pushed King of the Ring to the pay-per-view before Mania, it won't have much effect on Mania itself, because it's a tournament pay-per-view, premium live event. I still call them pay-per-views. And yeah, it won't affect WrestleMania as much as probably what an Elimination Chamber was. Do you know what I mean? There's not much to worry about it. So, like I said, I think it's going to be better in the long run, just because there is an opportunity that if it gets pushed back to May, that we could get a WrestleMania in London at that point. We could get a WrestleMania anywhere else in the world. And I imagine there's a lot of places in the US that would be more open to a WrestleMania, just because purely on a weather basis.
Well, especially on the East Coast, obviously they're usually the colder ones, and obviously a lot of people want to see it in the sunny Floridas, and obviously in the West Coast, because that's where all the good weather is. So yeah, of course, that a bit later in the year it opens up so much more possibilities for everyone. It's the biggest market WWE has, and I completely agree with a lot of that. Obviously, the only reason I had, instead of King of the Ring, I started flying the flag for Fastlane, which I don't think I've ever done that before. Maybe Roadblock. I prefer Roadblock.
At least it weren't Great Balls of Fire.
Yes, to be fair, it can always be that. But now I do feel bad for Minnesota, and of course, if you are from that area and you are watching this video, we do hope that you do get a WrestleMania at some point, 42, or if they're, which I should say, apparently when the mayor of London was re-elected, that we need to talk. So who knows? Maybe it's going to happen.
Fraud. He's a liar. I believe him.
We won't get too political though. But what we will do, we will move on in the meantime. And obviously we've got other topics that we want to discuss on this video. So we are going to move forward and discuss The King of the Ring. That's right. We are moving on to King and Queen of the Ring, which will be taking place on May 27th in Saudi Arabia. So we're going international once again. We're going to be giving our quick predictions of who we think will be the winners of this show. But before we do that, let's go through some of the brackets quickly of what we can look forward to. Raw have released their side of the brackets, or certainly the matches anyway, which I will go through those matches. So let's start off with the men here. We've got to look forward to Gunther versus Sheamus one more time. Bring that on. I can't wait. Ricochet versus Ilya Dragunov will be obviously who will be taking on the winner of those two matches to go head to head. So Gunther versus Dragunov already. Anybody? I'd be up for that. We've got Kofi Kingston versus Rey Mysterio and Drew McIntyre versus Finn Balor. So looking on the Raw side of things, I would immediately feel that we could be getting a Gunther Drew McIntyre final there of the Raw side. How are you feeling with looking at this lineup?
Yeah, I mean, it most likely is probably going to be. But then again, is it too obvious? Like, I'm sitting there thinking maybe Sheamus, Drew McIntyre, because obviously these two have had some history recently as well. And like, I don't know, like obviously with Gunther and Ludwig Kaiser recently kicking out Giovanni Vinci, I'd like to think that maybe there's a story there that they're going to play out. Maybe he has something to do with it. I don't know. It's I wouldn't mind seeing any of the others win it, like a Ricochet, for example. Obviously, he's just won the Speed tournament. He's now the WWE Speed champion. I imagine that will probably become the Cruiserweight champion at some point in the future. Rey Mysterio is also not a bad shout as well, because we obviously have Rey Mysterio is always booked to overcome the odds and, do you know what I mean, become like, we've seen it in the past, he's won world championships, always been booked as the underdog. So anything's a possibility, but there are already some killer matches. And yeah, the fact that they're teasing Dragunov as the second match into a King of the Ring tournament for Gunther, yeah, man, that's going to be absolutely killer. Like their NXT, their two NXT title matches for the UK Championship they had were. They were hard hitting, and Dragunov definitely come off the worst, even though he walked out as UK champion in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm looking forward to see if they do this again. I was thinking they're going to save it for Bash in Berlin, but hey, why not introduce him into the big stage nice and early? And this is the way you do it with a match against Gunther. So yeah, I'm totally all for that. I don't know the SmackDown side of things at present, but it looks like that the winner of the Raw side will face the winner of the SmackDown side. So I'm going to make a guesstimate of who I think, because I'll be honest with you. On the Queen side of things, I think a SmackDown star is going to win Queen of the Ring, but I think that it'll be Raw for the King of the Ring. I'm not going to waste any time on it because I think it's quite a given for me. I think Gunther is winning King of the Ring this year, and I think that if I had to guess now, I think someone like LA Knight will be someone he'll beat in the final. I just believe that King of the Ring and Queen of the Ring, it's going to mean something moving forward, because the person booking it won it himself. Triple H won it in 1997. And he knows what it can do to your career. When you look at people through the 90s, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Triple H, we've seen your Brock Lesnar did it, Kurt Angle, some of those names come out there and you say, they went on to bigger and better things. Some got title shots not long afterwards. This is going to be used as moving someone that's in around the middle of the card to take them in towards the main event scene. And I think that is what this is the purpose of this tournament. And I think going forward is going to mean much more than what we've seen probably since 2000. I mean, King Booker's probably the last decent King of the Ring that we've had, if you look back there when Judgment Day, back in those times. But since then, we look at like Wade Barrett's and Sheamus and people like that won King of the Ring. It just didn't mean a lot for me, unfortunately. It just, people wearing the crown.
It was a gimmick change for most people.
Yeah, and I ditch all that. Let's not do all that. It's all about who is the ring general, who is the one that is actually dominating in rings. So for me, Gunther is going to be that guy that does it. I think, like I say, I think LA Knight will be the finalist that will be losing to Gunther.
Yeah, I mean, Gunther obviously is the early shout, and it kind of makes sense. He's the most strongly booked, and yeah, exactly what you said, man. It used to mean something, and I'm kind of glad that they cancelled it last year, because we now have the opportunity to get a King of the Ring that Triple H wants to book, and I think that's probably the most important thing out of it. I was just looking here that these matches, these first lot of matches you just showed, they're gonna go down on May 6th and May 10th from Raw SmackDown. The quarterfinals will then go down on the 13th and 17th. The semis will then go down on the go home shows of Raw and SmackDown, and then they're only showing the finals at King of the Ring, which I think is great. Like, I know there's some god awful King of the Ring pay-per-views back in the day where it's just a whole tournament and it's just absolutely dire. So I'm glad that we're not doing that. But yeah, Have you got the graphics for the women at all?
I have indeed, yeah. So you sticking rear neck right now that Gunther is your pick for King of the Ring now?
I'm gonna go with Gunther, yeah.
There we go. Fantastic. Well, let's move on then to the women's side of things. So we can see here on the Raw side, we've got Io Sky versus Natalia. We've got Lyon Valkyria versus Asuka. I cannot wait for that match. That is the pick of the round for me. We've got Shayna Baszler versus Zelina Vega, and we've got Zoe Stark versus Ivy Nile. If I had to give my slight 2 cents in there, I think Io Sky is the one that stands out for me. He's going to actually win the lot here, but I think Lyon Valkyria is going to shock the world and beat Asuka there. I think Lyra is going to be in for a great run in this tournament. I wouldn't be surprised to see Baszler versus Stark if that's potentially if their paths are going to cross at some point in this tournament. But what are your thoughts looking at this?
So the breakdown is that whoever wins between Io and Natalia versus Baszler and Vega, and then Lyon Valkyria and Asuka will take on Stark and Nile. So it's a very it's going to be a very hard possibility to get Baszler versus Zoe unless that's the final. I mean, you're guessing, say, who did you say, Io, or who was the other one you suggested was going to win? Asuka.
Hearing that now, it'll be Io versus Lyra in the final for me of the Raw side.
So yeah, that it's a good shout. It'll be a good way to introduce Lyon Valkyria to the roster. Although I've got a feeling that this year is going to be the year for Shayna Baszler, and I think Triple H wants to bring her back as the kind of animal that she deserves to be. She already is the Queen of Spades. Why not make her the Queen of the Ring? It's kind of I know it's a silly thing to do, but I really want to see Shayna like rebooked as a dominant force again, and I imagine she's going to go through Zelina. Well, I say that Zelina obviously is the prior Queen of the Ring, and it's kind of like I know what I can already say. And I'm saying all this, and I can imagine that Zelina is just going to score a roll-up win on Shayna Baszler, and my whole guess is just going to go out the window. But yeah, I would say Lyon Valkyria probably makes it to the final. I'm going to stick with Shayna. I'm going to say it's going to be Shayna versus Lyon Valkyria on the Raw side.
Interesting. So if you had to make a prediction now, are you saying that it's a 2 for 2 and the Raw's going to win, or do you see someone on the SmackDown side potentially winning? I've got my prediction ready.
Honestly, it depends who's in on that SmackDown side. I like Gunther's the most dominant force in men's wrestling. Like, he's gone on a 666-day run as Intercontinental Champion, and he hasn't lost a match. Do you know what I mean? Whereas obviously Roman had lost tag matches and whatever else, so he kind of is the odds-on favorite to win that. The women's side, I'm glad it's a lot more open, but I've got a feeling that they're going to stick someone in that SmackDown side, like, I don't know, Nia Jax or something. I don't know, because I can't remember. I forget what the rosters are at this minute, but I just think there's someone in there that's just going to absolutely steal the show, or they're going to just put someone in where you're going to go, there's your winner right there, and it's going to completely throw it out the window. But if I was to take those first 8, I would still say Shayna Baszler, but I can't pick between the two because I don't know who the SmackDown ones are.
Interesting. Well, I'll tell you what, this is my prediction. And I'm now going to go full circle. You know what I said earlier in this video? I said that I think Bayley will face Bianca Belair at this show for the Women's Championship. That would free up Jade Cargill.
Oh my God.
Will win Queen of the Ring. Because as I said earlier on,
it's a great shout.
It's all about solidifying the stars of the future, because Jade can go through the roster. And you mentioned Nia Jax there, who would be the perfect finalist for Jade to get.
That's so right.
Would be Nia Jax. So obviously we don't know the brackets at this point, but I've seen a lot of shouts there for Chelsea Green. We've discussed Chelsea Green would be great. We talked about Tiffany Stratton would be brought up, because she's someone that you imagine is going to do being involved in this tournament as well, the Tiffy top and being the queen and stuff like that. But if you stick her in there with Naomi, for example, and something goes a little bit wrong, because Tiffany has lost to Naomi in the past, I don't know, I just got this feeling. I think Jade's going to be given a free path because Bianca can't, we've got the tag team titles, fantastic, but I've got to finish this damage control thing once and for all. I need to have the match with Bayley. Go for it. You're my partner. You can do it. Because in the meantime, I'm in the Queen of the Ring tournament, and I'm going to go and win. I'm Jade versus Io in the final.
I wouldn't mind that, but I'm just like, I'm looking at, like, I imagine Blair Davenport's going to be in the SmackDown side of the tournament because new to the roster, so I imagine she will be in it. Chelsea Green, depending on what happens with the NXT thing, I don't imagine she's going to beat Roxanne Perez, but by the looks of it, they're either going to put her back in NXT with Robert Stone, or Robert Stone's going to come to the main roster and be on SmackDown, which kind of makes more of the sense, because why would they draft Chelsea and then send her back to NXT? So I imagine Robert Stone's going to come up soon. Jade Cargill, Michin, Naomi, Nia Jax. There are some strong heavy hitters on the SmackDown side of it. Your best bet is probably that the SmackDown side, someone is going to win it.
I think someone from the SmackDown side will win it, and yeah, as I said, I've stuck my neck out there. She may not even be in the tournament. And look, this is the fun part of this. This is an early prediction. This is an early pick. This is if things change and we see that the brackets aren't right in about 4 days' time. Well, we reevaluate and we go with a new prediction of the people actually see they're actually in it.
Dude, if anyone goes back and watches our prediction video for Mania next year, half of my matches are already ruined. Dave Stevenson in the United States title match, the guy's just been released, and I'm like, well, there goes that match prediction for next year.
It wouldn't have been a hometown for him anyway in the end. So
exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the reason for it. But yeah, oh man, I can't wait to do the review on that when we go back and go, let's look at how rubbish we are at predicting WrestleMania.
Hey, if it's a year in advance, it's a bit of fun, and that's the beauty of doing that there. But you know, all in all, that's what we currently think for King and Queen of the Ring anyway. And we just quickly go in the comments, because Noob, thank you very much for your comments. We do appreciate them. He says Ela versus Gunter is going to be crazy to watch. It really is. Can't wait to see it again. They definitely need to do the trilogy match with those two. Noob says, I get the feeling we might get some form of tension between Asuka and Io Sky, potentially break up with Damage Control, because I think we need Damage Control back to their winning ways. Obviously, if they do cross paths in this, which is certainly a possibility, say Asuka beats Lara Valkyria, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a Neo Asuka finale, and that's a match that a lot of people would love to see again. Would you be against a bit of let's say damage control?
As long as it's not the finger poke of doom.
Oi. Let's not have the finger poke of doom. Let's definitely not have that. If that match happened, I knew would certainly be in favor of that one. They still would think Io would pick up the victory, but I'll tell you what, would not be against the idea of that at all, because like you say, they haven't been winning as of late, and obviously that does lead to a bit of tension in and amongst some groups when it does. But that's our thoughts of King and Queen of the Ring, and obviously we'll be doing more on that as we go through. And just to say as well, starting tonight, we are going to have the retro polls out. So just quickly just explain that for the next 60 seconds or so. So there's going to be in a King of the Ring style of how we're going to do this. So we're going to do 3 King of the Rings are going to go out tonight. And it's going to be a 24-hour poll only. The winner of the 24 hours will then face Tuesday's edition of competitors. There'll be 3 King of the Rings involved in that. After 24 hours of that, there'll be only 2 left. And for the rest of the week, the winner of semi-final 1 and semi-final 2 will go head-to-head, and you will vote for the winner. So you vote for everything. You'll see who it's going to be. There'll be 6 King of the Ring events on offer, and the winning King of the Ring will be the one that myself and Nick Steve will review before May 27th. So there you have it. That's how it's all going to roll out. But in the meantime, there was something that you discussed to me, Alex Steve, potentially could be going down, and that would be the Wyatt 6 is something a bit big discussion at the moment in WWE, or certainly with amongst the fan base, obviously. And there has been a bit of a leak, if you want. I've been watching Wrestle Talk earlier on today, and you've been discussing to me before that a lot of the names potentially had been revealed or leaked with regards of this. Obviously, Eric Rowan has re-signed with WWE. We can see above me Nikki Cross is there as well, and above Alex Steve, Dexter Lumis, 2 people that have not been doing anything in WWE. Joe Gacy's been AWOL since Stand and Deliver, not really done anything in NXT, but certainly been NXT for a long time. Could be due and ready for that call up. And of course, we do know Bo Dallas, of course, is going to be Uncle Howdy, and of course, it's going to be a tribute to Bray, obviously, and for the group here. And it's just going to be a matter of when they debut. But you said to me, potentially King of the Ring around that time period could be when they could be coming in.
I suppose this is if you go by the leaks and the QR codes and stuff like I didn't personally investigate it deeply, but like someone said, if you look at all the dates, it works out to the day of King of the Ring, and I'm kind of like, I'm a bit hesitant because it's a Saudi Arabia show, and I'm like, the crowd won't pop for it as hard as what I think a US crowd would. Do you know what I mean? So I'm kind of like a bit hesitant that so will happen at King of the Ring. Maybe we get another teaser. Maybe someone shows up. I don't know. But yeah, man, I'm hoping that they do this right. Like, it's all fine getting these QR codes and these teasers and, do you know what I mean? These spooky phone numbers that if you call, it sounds like Alexa Bliss's voice has been augmented and all this kind of stuff. But I just hope that, like, this shouldn't be a group that focuses on winning championships. This just should be a supernatural group that, I don't even know if you want to book them as heels, if you want to book them as faces. The thing is, the crowd's going to love it either way, so it's a bit hard to even book them as heels. So I just hope that they do it right, just for Bray's honor. Do you know what I mean? Because this was meant to be his thing, and it's good to see Nikki being used, because Nikki, obviously, I think the last thing Nikki was doing was stalking Candice LeRae backstage for pointless reasons. Do you know what I mean? Dexter, he's finally going to get the psychopath, like, serial killer, like, image that he's portrayed his whole, like, WWE career. And Joe Gacy, if we go back to the Joe Gacy before Schism, I'd be happy with that. He was a lot better. Good to see Eric Rowan back as well. Like, I'm glad that, like I said, it's going to be interesting. I just hope that it goes and it's booked right. That's my biggest worry. It's always the biggest worry when it comes to this kind of stuff, especially like 21st century, and we all know, like, people aren't so into superstitious stuff, and it's kind of just going to be good to see how it's booked. I mean, like, I wouldn't mind Bo Dallas appearing as Bo Dallas rather than Uncle Howdy. Like, do you know what I mean? I'd like almost how Bray was with The Fiend. If I wouldn't mind seeing that as well. But again, it's going to be just interesting to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of the thoughts you said there, especially with the thing of, like, I just hope it works out. Obviously, this is a tribute really to Bray Wyatt to carry on his honor and carry on the, you know, the story. If there's a vision, if there's, you know, I to my understanding, things I've read and heard, but you never know the truths of this. But, you know, the story is, you know, it was Bray's story. He knew the story. We're not sure how many other people knew where the full direction end game of it was, but certainly to carry on in his honor is going to be magical and special in itself. I mean, the documentary is so powerful, that was on Peacock, and to just to have this here, for me, I think a lot of people are going to be on board and support it. I think that's what it's based on, which for me, that's why I don't think they can be heels. I think they're going to be baby faces. I feel that, you know, I see this being almost like how, you know, if I want to make the comparison, obviously when Brody passed, obviously with Dark Order, you know, became like the biggest baby faces for a while in AEW, and I think that kind of vibe could work with this here, because people are going to want to see this do well. The people are going to want to see what they're going to do, and I think they're going to be all in on what the supernatural stuff is. And their first targets is going to be very interesting as well. Who they'll go for, what they'll be looking to do, what the message is as well. That stuff could be within the QR codes, which could be quite fun and fascinating. But depending where they land, if it's a Raw or a SmackDown, there's certainly different options and stuff that could be there.
Supersede the brands. Should appear on all 3 shows.
Interesting.
Because otherwise we end up with a Retribution getting drafted. Remember that? And how badly that went? Retribution have been drafted, yet these guys are meant to be rebellious and they don't need WWE contracts. They're just going to show up and destroy everything. Oh, you've been drafted to Raw or SmackDown or whatever it was. These guys should supersede any brand, and they should be able to appear as and when they want across all 3 shows. It would make it a lot more interesting. It might be a lot, do you know what? In fact, if anything, it makes it a kind of, again, it adds that more emphasis that you kind of have to watch every episode, because you don't know if they're going to show up or not. They all have a part to play in every show, really. Joe Gacy obviously has the NXT history. Bo does, because he was champion. Rowan was obviously a former tag team champion on the main roster. Dexter Lumis obviously has Johnny Gargano and the rest of the Way on the main roster. Like, that could be something for the future. I mean, I imagine these guys will initially start off as faces. I would like to see them get a heel run at some point where they just become insanely evil and just start manipulating to new stuff. In fact, that could probably be the point where you push someone like an Uncle Howdy to a main event scene and he wins a world title, because WWE have this thing where someone passes away and they always have, or someone has to retire, and they always push the nearest person to them to the main event scene. We saw it with Ray when Benoit passed away. We saw it with Christian when Edge retired. So I imagine at some point in the next few years, you probably might see Uncle Howdy as a world champion.
Never say never. Never say never on it. It's going to be interesting to see how it's all going to play out, obviously. And obviously, people may be looking above and go, there's only 5 there as well. So we should mention, obviously, Alexa Bliss has been rumored for the group, but this wasn't a part of the leak that I saw. But I mean, obviously, she's out. She's had a kid, obviously. Maybe she could be due to return at some point later this year. She certainly could be a good fit for this group. Obviously, she has history of tagging with Nikki Cross, obviously. And she obviously had history of being alongside Bray as well, with the character that she had as well, being in sort of the playground and stuff. But it could be simple as well that the other spot isn't filled because the other spot is Bray. You know, he's not with us, but he'll always feel like he's with us. Maybe that could be the message that they'll try and do. Because obviously, I originally always thought Braun Strowman would be a part of this group, but he's obviously returned and he's doing his own thing by the looks of things on Raw. But hey, this is the rumored leaked lineup above. Time will tell when they actually come in if this is actually the lineup or not. But all in all, I think what I could turn around and say this is that I just hope it's a success, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of people are just going to be wanting to be supportive of the group and obviously have their fitting tribute to Bray.
Yeah, absolutely, totally agreed.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you, we're going to move on into one final topic. Something that just basically I wanted to talk about because I didn't get the luxury to do so, which was the WWE Draft 2024, because did night 1, didn't do night 2. And of course, well, a lot of the reasoning for that was I've just been a bit under the weather the last week. So I've not been able to give you the content that I would have liked to have done so. But what I can do is I'm not going to go through every single name. So I think that just bore everybody for about 10 minutes or so. But here are the rosters on your screen right now. You can see everything there, obviously, from the likes of, you know, Damian Priest, Becky Lynch, Sami Zayn, and the Champions of Some Truth for Raw, and SmackDown, Cody, Bayley, Logan Paul, ATM Down Under. But there's a lot of names that stayed, I feel, in the same place. And I think that certainly night 1 was more disappointing than night 2 for me. I like to see more of a shake-up, and I think that I would have preferred that. I think it's the idea of rosters and big names changing shows, maybe even champions changing shows, something like that, just because of the draft, it's meant to throw the unpredictability factor out there. But for me, I just felt Raw keeps this person, SmackDown keeps this person. I think it was a very cautious draft this year, which I think could have been fine if it was a storyline as like, I don't know, for example, say everyone plays caution, but then all of a sudden they go mad because they've lost one wrestler. So they all of a sudden start picking purposely someone from Raw, and then everything just turns into chaos and everyone ends up changing shows. I think that could have been fun as a storyline beat just to get Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis on different pages, if you will. But I just felt it was a very safe draft this year. But all in all, what I would say positively, because I want to say something positive about this draft as well, a lot of big matches we have seen before. We probably will see again looking at it. But at the same time, I do think we will get a lot of matches that we didn't get the opportunity to see. For example, Logan Paul and LA Knight is a match we wanted to see, didn't get to see it. Hopefully, on the Raw side, you know, we look at the likes of Gunther versus Seth Rollins. We didn't get to see that last year, which I thought was a shoo-in of a match we'd get. Hopefully, we'll get to see it this year. So there is lots of things in there. And if you look at the NXT talent as well, obviously, Braun Breaker's been drafted from SmackDown to Raw. I actually am in favor of that. I think a lot of people laughed at the trade of that one, but I'm in favor of it because I think Braun's going to really stand out on Raw. He wasn't doing stuff on SmackDown, was more focused on NXT. If you look at things as well there with, you know, SmackDown, they've got Carmelo Hayes. We mentioned the likes of Ilya Dragunov, Lyon, Valkyria, Blair, Davenport. There's some NXT call-ups there that are there to stand out and shine. And I think if you look at the two rosters, I think that we are going to actually build some new stars over the next 12 months. I think it's not going to be, it may not prove to be as bad as what it felt like watching. I think watching it was worse. But NXT, I want to get your thoughts here of these two drafts here, the two shows that we've got. If you're feeling it, if you think the draft was good, and ultimately, I suppose, who you think won.
I mean, I said this to you the other day, and I said I think the reason the draft flopped was because that for the last God knows how long, is essentially everyone has been appearing on both shows, so it doesn't feel like any draft picks or any movements were as impactful as what they could have been, for the fact that we've seen LA Knight, for example. He's been on Raw, he's been on SmackDown for God knows how long. I think this is where I probably gassed myself as well, that I didn't take that into account, that apart from the NXT call-ups, there's nothing that's really, I sat there and really went, oh, that's a surprising draft pick. That's a surprising draft pick. I mean, Kiana James and Blair Davenport coming up, I think possibly the two greatest shock picks out of everything, because do you know what I mean? I wasn't expecting them to come up, especially Blair Davenport. Like, she hasn't done She hadn't done anything in NXT UK. She's been, I think, injured most of the time since she's been on NXT. But the fact that she's been called up to SmackDown means that they must have some sort of faith in her. And the fact that she's going to get some screen time now on SmackDown, I think is great. I mean, if you could sit there and ask me who a winner is, you can't really pick a winner. I think both rosters are really evenly matched. I mean, like if I look at the Raw one, you've got Seth Rollins, you've got my guy Bron Breakker. I think he's going to have a massive year. You've got Alpha Academy, and that means Chad Gable's on the show as well. So, do you know what I mean? I'm looking to see what Chad Gable could do. You've got Gunther, you've got Punk. Do you know what I mean? Drew McIntyre. So there's a load of big names, but then you look at the other side, a lot of great characters over here. You've got LA Knight, you've got AJ Styles, you've got the Bloodline still over there, arguably the biggest story for the last year. You've got Kevin Owens, you've got Jade Cargill, you've got, do you know what I mean? There is just so many names over there. Bianca Belair getting first draft pick as well. Like there's such a well-evened rosters that I can't say either show won. But the fact that we have defining rosters now, I think, is the most important part. It's going to be there's a lot of stuff there that's going to mean that we're going to have a great year for wrestling, especially like for me with the tag team divisions, having DIY Pretty Deadly on the same show, Legado del Fantasma on there. That's going to be great on SmackDown. Creed Brothers being on Raw, New Catch Republic. So yeah, there's just going to be some great stuff on TV for the next 12 months. But I imagine like the draft next year, depending on when they decide to do it, because we had this conversation that if Mania is being pushed back, how does the draft then play into when they do it and stuff? So yeah, it's going to be, like I said, it's just going to be a good year really, but I imagine the draft next year will be a lot more better.
Yeah, I think like we've kept the drafts up there, so you will see our faces again in a minute. So don't worry. But it's just to give everyone, so when we talk about a name or two, you can see the show and you see what we're trying to talk about, rather than we're just talking to like air if you want, and you kind of go, well, who's where. But yeah, I mean, I see a lot what you're saying. And obviously, when Roman comes back now, he will be on SmackDown. It looks like, obviously, because that's where the Bloodline storyline is. When The Rock comes back, you imagine him go for Cody Rhodes, and it will continue. So all in all, I think SmackDown will look like ultimately probably the winning show in a while. But if I look at the shows right now, I think Raw does stand out to me a little bit, especially with the NXT influence now that's on that show. And obviously, we've got the likes of Punk there, McIntyre. You know, it's just Jey Uso, Seth Rollins, and we can still, when you look at WrestleMania next year, we can still do Rollins versus Punk. That's there for Raw. It's locked in if they want to do it. You know, I think that when you look with the likes of, say, the Final Testament as well, they've got an opportunity to try and break out and finally get some TV time. They're getting hardly any on SmackDown with all the Bloodline storylines going on, so a chance for that group to finally break out as well. So I'm thinking all in all that this is there's potential that actually WWE have got this very, very well done. The only disappointment for me is that Baron Corbin and Bron Breakker can't have a little small go as the Wolf Dogs. But hey, like you say, DIY there and Pretty Deadly on SmackDown as well. I think all in all, I think it's not a bad one, you know. And
obviously, Jones being drafted again.
Oh yeah, I know. He somehow ended up on Raw. Pleasure.
I tell you what, I'm glad Dijak come up as well. Actually, I didn't actually see his name until right at the end there. I'm glad that he's got to come up. Another guy that's kind of like, since Keith Lee left, he's kind of not had a place. He's kind of just existed, and then he came back as this kind of like, I almost want to see Dog the Bounty Hunter kind of look. And I'm glad he's going to be on the main roster now, so we can see what he can do. And like, hopefully he's booked slightly better than, I don't know, Bounty Hunter kind of aesthetic, really. Like, he had great matches and great runs, but like on the main roster, being on Raw especially is probably more beneficial to him as well, because more TV, like more 3 hours on the show is a good opportunity for him to get some TV time as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Just the random 4-star matches that Dijak will have in the second hour of Raw now. It's just fantastic on a weekly basis. Like, you know, it's just, he's been killing it in NXT. So you just, for example, just throw like Dijak and Ivar just out there, just to, you know, and Bronson Reed just have like big meaty matches and stuff like that. Yeah, count me in for that all day long. I'm all for that. So all in all, I feel I'm gonna say Raw won, but all in all, I think SmackDown could walk away with it, because, you know, they kept Roman. They've got Cody over there as well. Like we say, when you look at the storyline factors and that, I think Raw has the potential to make new stars with the NXT call-up stuff, and they're the ones that are more likely to break out. But SmackDown has got some pretty big
the
star
stories.
Yeah, they've got the stories as well. I think Carmelo Hayes already starting a good story with Bobby Lashley. It looks like could be set for SmackDown as well there. So yeah, all in all, that's pretty much our thoughts there with the draft. Just wanted to talk about it for 5-10 minutes because, you know, ultimately we didn't really get much opportunity to do so. But that's pretty much most of what we've got covered for this show. So what we'll do is just very quickly just dive in and go with a couple of comments. Was there anything you want to talk about just before we wrap up?
No, go for it, mate.
Well, let's go through a couple of comments here. I mean, Temple looking forward to Gunter versus Ilya. They will be actually facing in the semi-final on the Raw side if the brackets play out. So that's a match that we look forward to. I expect we will get to see. But Temple also enjoying Backlash. The crowd has been one of the best he's ever seen in his entire life. But it's put us UK fans to shame. I mean, I don't know if we go to that far. They were very good, though. The European fans definitely have done outstanding.
I would just say go back and watch Money in the Bank last year, because when John Cena comes out and declares that he's here to get a WrestleMania to London, you ain't going to see a crowd pop harder than that. That was phenomenal last year.
Absolutely, it was phenomenal indeed. It was Money in the Bank was.
I don't know the song in French, unfortunately. I can't carry on singing.
I can't do it either, unfortunately. Did a little bit of French, but can't do that song. But prediction here for Bo Dallas and the White Six to go after Roman Reigns, because Roman is the one to take the title off Bray to start the historic run. So yeah, could be. It also involved Braun Strowman. Absolutely. Temple does suggest that Braun should be the final person in amongst that group. Obviously, we discussed it earlier on. Temple suggests to go and rewind on that part. An AJPW fan, Usos versus GOD for the tag titles next.
Yes.
So no. It's a WrestleMania match. It's definitely going to go down, I think, but it's just a matter of when. But we'll say yes for the time being.
I just don't know if New Japan owns the rights to GOD or not. That's the only thing.
That's the big question, doesn't it? So, and we've answered the question of where we think it does lead to Jacob Fatu. We think maybe he could be on Roman's side. That's what we think he could end up being going forward on this. Maybe he's not on Solo's side, but maybe he will be. Time will tell. That's the exciting part of all this.
Say maybe he's on Solo's side, because then that's a 4-piece, and then you put the Usos, Rock, and Roman back on the other side, and that's a 4-piece.
It is indeed. We'll have to wait and see if anyone else comes in. War Games, indeed. We can't wait for it. And obviously, this is a comment coming as well there for War Games later in the year. But that's all from us anyway. We're going to wrap things up there. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure that the like button, share with a friend, and subscribe as well. It's been a fun time reviewing Backlash, talking King and Queen of the Ring, which has been easy for me to say. As well as that, we've been talking about the White Six and the WWE Draft. You can always go and use the chapters feature, which will be available for you if you're watching on delay. You can go to your favorite part of the video. Thank you all for watching. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you for the next video. More videos will be dropping on this channel later this week.